first thing, and this is the how to, demystifying home building. I think that's a really important thing to understand. I feel that there's this thing about home builders, how, you know, there's all these specialties, and there's very special people that they're building homes these days. And you know what I found, and I don't want to take anything away, there's some great home builders out there, but frankly, the majority of them, the level of education and background that they have gotten to there, in many cases, are carpenters that started, and that's what they knew, and that's a great trade, and it's good, but there's so much more to be in a construction company than being a good tradesman. I really feel that architects are one of the best prepared people in their education background. You know, I would say that the average architecture student coming out of school has more knowledge about construction than the average home builder out there has been at it for 5+ years. And so, you know, to me it's a very natural progression to move into this area. So the other, let's see, and you know, for those of you that are younger generation that are looking to possibly start in something like this, if you feel a little bit like, okay, I'm really excited about this, I know I've learned a lot, or maybe not so much in school, about construction, and you know, look at maybe hiring somebody that's a superintendent that already has some experience. Obviously, tackle a smaller project, but that's you know, that's definitely a good way to work with that shortcoming. Also, another of the things that is really difficult sometimes is I'm not going to have enough credit from suppliers. I'm going to have a credit from the bank and such. You know, I started doing this when I was in my mid-20s, and believe me, my financial statement was the statement of somebody coming out of school, pretty much. So I don't understand why so many people gave me credit, but they did. And the reality of things is that you know, they're interested in doing business, and I think many people realize that, and the answer to this is because when you go and show up to get credit, the guy next to you is a builder that probably has even less qualifications that you might have, and they're going to be given credit. So it's, again, I think it's something that a lot of people think that you have to have a pretty strong financial statement to get going. You know, it depends on the size of projects. And just start small and then build it up. But you know, banks and suppliers and subcontractors, they definitely they'll come along with you and they'll work with you. One of the other things that I wanted to mention here, and this I talked a little bit about it, about the quality of design and how important it is. Well, what I want to expand on is that, you know, builders realize this, and I mentioned earlier how many builders are looking to attach themselves to good architects because that's the ride to get moving to be perceived as quality builders. Well, the quality is the quality of the design. I've seen so many products out there that the public comes in and says, oh, I love this house, you know, the quality of this house is tremendous. And as a builder, I walk around and go and see, you know, probably some of the poorest quality in construction. But what happens is the design is great. So the perception that they have is about the design, and I've seen exactly the opposite. With some, you know, some people that will come over and say, you know, a particular job that looks terrible, you know, the construction is just so bad, you know, I didn't like that house. Actually, the construction was pretty good, but the design sucked. And I think that that's a perception that they have. So again, I wanted to me, I think this is part of demystifying the home building industry. The home building industry is very depending on good design. That's what I wanted to come across with. Another parts in here that is very important, and this is, I would say, is the #1 thing that I hear from people that are looking to get started in design build, is, oh, I don't know, I can stand the liability, you know, I already have so much liability, and I'm going to take on this extra liability. And, you know, this is part, to me, about the demystifying of this concept. Because for home builders, just the same thing as it is for architects. I mean, we take on insurance. We have errors and omissions, which is very expensive. But adding the layer of construction, this is going to depend on the different states. Different states have different insurance laws. I know in Texas, as a home builder, when I take my liability insurance, it covers an expense over errors and omissions. So actually my cost for insurance is slightly above that of architects anyway. And it covers both parts of the practice. But those things change from one state to another. And the other thing I wanted to mention in this area is that when you design and build, you're really covering a lot of the problems that create this liability. Because when you have two entities that are really not talking very well to each other, you know, who can better cover your tail than yourself? If you're designing, you're going to be very careful on how you design things because you're going to be liable for this other end. So there's a little extra incentive while you're designing. And the same thing when you're building is the same thing, that you have an additional incentive. So what I found is that as an architect builder, I get in less trouble than the average builder out there as far as liability, because I just have more control of the process and the client relationship too. And ultimately, of course, is to approach this work with ethics and integrity, because that's really what's going to cover you more than an insurance policy, is that you know that you need to do a good job, and that's what's going to keep you out of trouble. So I just wanted to mention that to me, I mean, I don't feel that I'm taking a lot of liability when I do this. I know I do, but I feel that I'm very well covered because I'm approaching all these projects knowing that I can do something I know is not right. I'd rather go ahead and tear it down early, get it done right, make sure that I'm not going to have a problem later on. And again, it goes back to quality of drawings. That's the best insurance, and it's what we do for a living. That's what we learn to do. Do a good job in the design process, because that's what's going to keep you out of trouble. Make sure that the contractors and everybody has enough information to do things properly and get the right consultants. What tools do I need? Estimating is definitely an important part of the process. You need to be doing some learning on this process. I can tell you that initially it's a little tougher because you don't have a lot of information to work with other than bids and numbers that other people will give you. After you have enough work, historical information, you are a wealth of historical information that you can provide and learn how to use it to do the quick estimates. And additionally, again, hire a good estimator, or learn some estimating skills yourself. That can definitely get you there. Another thing is accreditation. The same thing as we architects have. We're all sitting here taking all these courses to get our continuing education. With home builders, that industry is really doing great and much better than it's done over the last several years. They do have a lot of accreditations. If you connect with the NHB or your local HBA, those guys have a tremendous amount of great courses that will deal directly with home building and construction science. So I'd really encourage you to join the HBA. It's a good idea to do that. And I talked a little bit about the financial part of things. Go to the bankers. I mean, those guys really do want to do loans, and if you need some additional capital to achieve some of these things, they'll work with you. Most of them, of course, this is something that changes with the times, but one of the bankers you go to says, no, move on to the next one. I mean, you will find somebody that will believe in you. And another part here is the real estate market. I really recommend that you find your niche and find the area. Somebody was talking about remodelings and such. I did do another remodeling. As a matter of fact, I'm doing one right now. But the one thing is that we're limited to remodel only the projects that we have done in the past. So, but if that's the niche, there's a huge market in remodeling. You just need to make sure that your company understands the type of subcontractors you need to use and how you need to approach new construction versus when somebody's either living in the house or it's actually their property that you're working at. But beyond understanding your market, it's good to have a good relationship with real estate agents, especially if you're going to be doing speculative work. You need to be careful to not give the real estate community more more credit than they deserve in the area of new construction, because be aware that the real estate industry is in the market to sell resale homes. That's 99+% of what they do. They're really not into new construction. Their commissions get deferred, and they're not very excited. And so make sure, don't feel that the real estate agent is going to be bringing you tons of work. I mean, it's good to have them involved, especially going to be doing speculative work. It's a good idea to work with them. And the other one in here on the tools you will need, again, make sure and review contracts. The AIA contracts are really not that ideal, I feel, for residential. I'm involved in some revisions that are being done to some of the contracts right now, just getting started through CRAN. And the AIA is definitely looking, they realize that there's many architects that are doing residential, and there's been a huge problem with the AIA over the years. So they're working on it, but meanwhile, check the HBA, and they have some pretty good contracts. Challenges and some of the solutions that you'll have. This is a pretty important one for those of you that have been doing residential design and feel like I want to give it a try at this. Just be aware that once you get going, you're not going to be able to. Your builders are going to be their competitors, and a lot of that back scratching that sometimes happens between those two industries. But I'm going to get your job, and I'm going to recommend you such, it's not going to be there. So that's an important part. When you make the transition from design only to design build, you're just not going to be getting referrals from builders. So that's going to be an automatic. So that's going to be a challenge. So make sure, a lot of architects really depend on a lot of their builder friends to bring them work. Well, that'll dry out pretty fast. And this next one, I think I already touched upon this, that your creativity might be limited. I think that's really one of the biggest challenges for a company, a design build company at any level, from the beginning to a very mature company. This fellow, Peter Polimas, he's got a tremendous, I really admire his company. He's extremely organized, and talk about building for the top 1%. I mean, this guy up there in Martha's Vineyard, in that area, it's doing some really phenomenal projects, very high dollar. But his commitment to high level of quality and not being compromised by the fact that he's got a construction company is impeccable, and that's the way to do this. The other challenge is going to be spreading yourself too thin. You're going to be taking more responsibilities, and yes, there's going to be more on your shoulders, and so some of us are, like additional punishment. So that's something that you probably get a little bit of, and but there's relief for that. And again, I have some of the solutions here. Learn to delegate and have a good staff. The next one, which is you're going to have the double management. Then you can get the additional staff and grow as a company as you start getting more work. Obviously, you're going to have more income, so you're going to be able to hire people. But it's going to be hard to take away is the management part of things. And this goes back to what I said earlier in the presentation, that to me, companies where you have two separate companies that have their own ownership and come together as design build, it's just not, to me, it has not been a sustainable thing and lasting, because it needs to be one single ownership, I think, for a design build company to be sustainable over the years and to succeed. Let's see. I think that's the end of the presentation, and we might have some additional questions in there. And again, I encourage you to look at the